Good morning, class. In last class, I taught you what is transpiration, and I have also explained you some experiment to show the rate, to show the transpiration, how transpiration takes place, and some methods through the experiment by which we can how we can measure the rate of transpiration. And after that, I suppose the gallons meter is the apparatus which is used to measure the rate of transpiration, and we have also learned the difference between evaporation and transpiration. Now today we will I will teach you about the types of transpiration. There are three types of transpiration. First is stomatal transpiration, second is cuticle transpiration, and third is lenticular transpiration. Now let's start with the stomatal transpiration. Stomatal transpiration is the transpiration which takes place through the stomata. Stomata are the microscopic spores which are present on the lower surface of the leaf in dicot plant, whereas it is present equally on both the surface, upper and lower surface, in monocot plants. We all know what is monocot and dicot. So this is the stomatal transpiration which takes place through the stomatal pores. And first of all, we have studied to I will explain you the structure of stomata. Stomata is a microscopic pore. It is not any part of the leaf. It is a microscopic pore present on the lower surface of the leaf in dicot plant, and it is covered by the two guard cells, kidney shaped guard cell. These are the two kidney shaped guard cell, and this portion of the guard cell is totally open, and it is open and it is in contact with the atmosphere when it is open, and this portion is called stomata. Singularly it is called stomata, and it is plurally called stoma. And these are the pores which are present by turgidity. When the guard cell turgid, it swells and makes this pore to open, and when it is flaccid, means shrink, having no water or cell sap in it, at that time it shrinks and make it close like this. In this, make it close, and it mostly happen in night when the transpiration is very low in rate. Now let's start with the mechanism how stomatal transpiration takes place in leaves. First is water moves across the leaf by apoplast. What is apoplast? It is a pathway of the water through the cell wall. I have already taught you what is apoplast. There are two pathways, apoplast and symplast. Apoplast is the pathway through the cell wall, pathway of the water through the cell wall of the cell. So in this, water moves. Water comes from the xylem, and in the leaf, this is the cells of the leaf, it moves across the apoplast like this through the walls of the cell, and finally it reaches to the mesophyll cell. These are the mesophyll cells. These are the palisade cells, and these are the spongy mesophyll cells. And when it reaches to the mesophyll cells are exposed to the intercellular spaces at some intervals, and these intercellular spaces get the water in the form of vapors, and finally they form a thin of water vapor in it, and this thin layer of water vapor makes it saturated, makes these spaces saturated, and finally it reaches to the stomatal pores. Finally, it reaches to the stomatal pore, and the concentration gradient between the atmosphere and stomatal pore is totally different. Water concentration is more in the stomata, in the leaf, as compared to the atmosphere, and so the diffusion of water vapor takes place through the stomatal pores, and in this way stomatal transpiration takes place. Water vapors comes out by the process of diffusion, because there is no any membrane between the atmosphere and stomatal pore, so that water diffuses out through the stomatal pores in the form of vapor. In this way water diffuses out. This is all about the stomatal transpiration. Now I will also explain you this. It is also explained by another theory, and that is called potassium concentration theory. This is the potassium concentration theory. How because of the potassium concentration stomatal transpiration takes place. Now when green plant exposed to light, guard cell accumulate potassium ions from their adjacent cell due to the process of photosynthesis, and this potassium ions makes the cell sap of the guard cell hypertonic. When it accumulates potassium ions from these adjacent cell, it makes these potassium ions makes the cell sap of the guard cell hypertonic. Hypertonic means the water concentration of this guard cell becomes less as compared to these cells, so that endosmosis takes place. We all know osmosis. In osmosis, water moves from its higher concentration to its lower concentration. So due to the water concentration becomes less because of this potassium ion, it comes outside from the adjacent cell, and so this cell becomes turgid. This guard cell becomes turgid, and the turgidity of guard cell makes it open, so that stomata gets open and water diffuses out in the form of water vapor. This is all about the potassium concentration theory. The other two types of transpiration are cuticular transpiration and lenticular transpiration. Cuticular transpiration, some plants to minimize the rate of transpiration or to minimize the water lost from the plant body, some of the epidermal cells of the leaf secrete latex, or you can also say it is a waxy layer on the epidermal cells of the leaf, on the upper surface of the epidermal cells of the leaf, which makes the leaf very much thick, and this thickness avoid the rate of transpiration. And this type of leaves mostly occur in desert area, in the vegetation of the desert area. The leaves of the desert area plants are very thick, and so that plants survive for very long time without water. Now the next is the lenticular transpiration. Lenticels are present on the old bark of the stem, and these cells are directly open. Always these cells are always open, and through these cells loss of water takes place in older plant. This is all about the cuticular transpiration and lenticular transpiration. Now I will explain you what are the factors which affects the rate of. Now these are some factors which affects the rate of transpiration. Some of the external factors and some of the internal factors. Internal factor means in the leaves, in the plants, the structure also affects the rate of transpiration, and external means atmospheric factors which affect the rate of transpiration. Now let's start with the light intensity. Increase light intensity increase the rate of transpiration, and as the light intensity decreases, the rate of transpiration will also decreases. So in the night, that's why in night there is no transpiration process takes place, because due to the less light intensity, stomatal pores gets totally closed, in the night, so that there is no transpiration will takes place in the night. Now the next is the temperature. High the temperature, high the rate of transpiration. Wind velocity. Wind velocity also increases the rate of transpiration. More the wind velocity, and so that more rate of transpiration will take place. Now humidity. Humidity means presence of water in air, and this decreases the rate of transpiration. Nowadays, in this time, the totally the air present in the atmosphere is humid, and hence it decreases the rate of transpiration. Now carbon dioxide concentration. It also decreases. The more the carbon dioxide concentration in the atmosphere, less the rate of transpiration. It causes the closure of stomata. Higher concentration of carbon dioxide causes the closure of stomata, and so that there is no rate of transpiration will take place in high concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. Now atmospheric pressure, it is also inversely proportional to the rate of transpiration. More the atmospheric pressure, less the rate of transpiration. This is all about the external factors which affects the rate of transpiration. Now the internal structure. First is the leaf structure. Sometimes in the leaf, waxy layer or cuticle layer formed, and this type of structure of the leaf decreases the rate of transpiration. So thin the structure of leaf, more the rate of transpiration. Now the next is the leaf area. Leaf area will also affect the rate of transpiration. More broad leaves increases the rate of transpiration because the more number of stomata present on broad leaves, and this more the area, more the rate of transpiration. Less the area, suppose some of the leaves are like this shape, their size is very thin, and this in such type of leaves, no very few stomatas are present, like in nerium plant, and it will decreases the rate of transpiration. So leaves area also affects the rate of transpiration. Now succulence. Succulence is also the structure of leaf. How much waxy layer present on the leaf? If the waxy layer is present on the leaf, it decreases the rate of transpiration, and if it is not, leaf is thin in structure, it decreases the rate of it increases the rate of transpiration. Now rolling, curling and twist shape of the leaf also affects the rate of transpiration. This type of leaves decreases the rate of transpiration. This is all about the internal factors which affects the rate of transpiration. Now next topic is the advantages and disadvantages of the transpiration. Now these are some advantages and disadvantages of the transpiration. Now let's start with the advantage. First is the cooling effect. Transpiration. The process of transpiration does not makes the temperature of the plant high. It always makes the plant body cool, and this is called cooling effect. In very hot season, the plant body never becomes hot. It is because of the transpiration, because it is a type of evaporation, and evaporation always cause cooling. Now this is the cooling effect of the transpiration on the plant body. Now next is the distribution of water. Transpiration process distribute the water, distribute the whole part, whole minerals and water to whole parts of the plant body. This is called the distribution of water. Transpiration means it suck the water, so that sucking of water distributes it to whole parts of the plant body. Now next, the translocation. Translocation is the distribution of the food materials in the plant body, and it is also due to the transpiration, because it distributes, not only distribute the water and mineral, it also distributes the food material from the leaves to whole parts of the body, and it is all because of the transpiration. Now next is the suction force. Suction force means transpiration always helps in the ascent of sap. Ascent of sap means upward movement of the water, and it is caused due to the transpiration, because transpiration causes sucking force in the xylem column of the plant body, and hence it causes the transpiration pull. It is also called transpiration pull, and so that water can easily be move upwards against the gravity. So it also helps in the suction force. Now next is the osmosis. Because of the need of the water, root always absorb the water from the soil. So it also causes the osmosis by the root hair cells. Now next, the effect on climate. We all know plant absorb the water, and only 2 to 5% water is used up by the plant. Rest of the water coming out through the transpiration process, and this water stored in the atmosphere, and hence it makes the moisture in the atmosphere. Hence it also causes good effect in the climate. These are the some advantages of the transpiration. Now disadvantage. Wilting. High rate of transpiration causes the wilting of the leaves. Wilting means drooping of the leaves in the midday. Midday, the rate of transpiration is very high because temperature and light intensity is very high at that time, and so the rate of at that time the rate of osmosis decreases, and it causes the wilting of the leaves. And due to the wilting and due to the high rate of transpiration, plants show the stunted growth. The plant showing high rate of transpiration, they also showing the stunted growth because of the loss of water. Now abscission. Abscission is that abscission is the process is the condition of the plant when the rate of transpiration is very low in the plant body, and it is because of the less water content in the soil, and less rate of transpiration causes the secretion of abscisic acid in the leaves, and this abscisic acid acts as an anti-transparent, and this anti-transparent causes the abscission in the leaves. Means it reduces the rate of transpiration, it inhibits or prevents the rate of transpiration. Now energy expenditure. We all know that 95% of the water coming out. So the transpiration pull or suction force need very high much energy, and it is also so that's why it is the energy expenditure process. Now loss of mineral. We all know that cells have minerals. Cells have is not only the water coming is seen in ascent of sap, whole mineral cell sap. Cell sap is the mixture of mineral and water. So with the water, some of the minerals also lost due to the transpiration, and this is the disadvantage of the transpiration. These are the some disadvantages. Now I will explain you the adaptation for the transpiration process and for the transpiration process. Plants growing in dry area shows several structural modification to reduce the rate of transpiration. The first is the leaves with thick cuticle. If the leaf structure is very thick, because of the cuticle waxy layer, the rate of transpiration reduces. Second is the less stomata. If the leaf area is very less, means it is very thin, not broad. That shape of the leaf also due to and in such type of leaves, number of stomata is very less, so that rate of transpiration will also decreases. Now next is the sunken stomata. In some in the leaves of some plants, the stomata are covered by the hairs, leaf hairs, and these leaf hairs, covering of these leaf hairs reduces the rate of transpiration. Now, leaf modifying to spine. In cactus, we all know in cactus, total only we are seeing the stem of the cactus, and on the place of leaf we see the spines in the cactus, and this total loss of the leaf decreases the rate of transpiration. No transpiration occurs in cactus, and this type of vegetation mostly occurs in the dry season. Now, opening of stomata in the night. The plants of the some family having the characteristic to open their stomata only in the night, and we all know in the night the temperature and light intensity is very low, and so that the rate of transpiration will also very low. These are the some adaptation for the plants growing in the dry area to reduce the rate of transpiration. Now there are two topics, guttation and bleeding. Guttation is the loss of water in the form of droplets from the margin of the leaves, not from the stomata, and not water loses in the form of vapors. These are some differences between guttation and transpiration. In transpiration, water loses from the stomata in the form of water vapor, but in guttation, water loses in the form of droplets, and this process occurs only in the night, not in the daytime. And the water loses from the cells. These cells are called high diathode cells. These cells are present on the margin of the leaves of some plant, and this cells are loses water in the form of droplets, and these cells are present on the margin of the leaf. Suppose this is the leaf. These cells are present on the margin of the leaves, and so that water loses in the form of droplets on the margin of the leaf, only on the margin of the leaf. This is called guttation. The leaves of bryophyllum, tomato, potato showing the guttation process. Now next is the bleeding. Bleeding is also the loss of water in the form of water. It is not in the droplets or in the form of vapor. And this type of this process mostly occurs in the stems of the old plant, because this bleeding occurs through the lenticels, and these lenticels are mostly present in the old bark of the tree, and when injured, when the plant, the stem of the old plant injured, the cell sac, water with minerals coming out, and that process is called bleeding. This is all about this chapter. We will continue with the next chapter, and I will also send the PDF of this chapter. Till then, thank you.